So, hey guys, today we're going to be talking about pretty foreign concept to me at least. Uh what is hype in MasterDuel? So just let it sink in for a second. Give it a good moment to think about it for a second. Okay, so let's say we're playing going first. What could possibly be hype about going first? So let's say we make an unbreakable end board. Our opponent, well, if they drop a hand trap or something, it's just not going to happen. So that's not very hype. But if it does happen, that our opponent's not really going to be able to like do anything. So I mean, that's kind of whatever. So anything the going first player does, can the going first player be hype? Yeah. Can going first be hype? I guess. Can it? Well, since you have so much advantage as the going first player, like genuinely, I don't think there's on anything like you could do that could be hype. So set 5 back row pass, lame. Normal summon a monster, pass, lame. So if you do nothing, that's lame because you did nothing. If you do like something, then it's lame because you're going first. That's the duality, I guess. Yeah. Is there a single even cool end board you could make? Like, even if it were a simple end board, it's pretty much just lame, right? So with, let's say, Centurion, even without like going into like hot red dragon whatever, king calamity something, even without that, then all you're really ending on is like an omni negate or two, maybe three, just some omni negates, and then you just drop the omni negates, and then you might win, you might not. It's kind of like whatever, right? Fiendsmith and Fiendsmith, not really hype. You just turn 2 bodies somehow into Fiendsmith combo, and then it's just Fiendsmith. It's like, eh. Is there even like a hype combo? Honestly, like if you drop an FTK, like that's lame because if your opponent has hand traps and they don't work, then it's like lame because then you're not doing anything because it's basically FTK or bust with pretty much every FTK like ever so far that I remember at least, for the most part. And then if you don't do the FTK, then it's just lame. So no matter how you spin it, it's either lame or it's lame. So yeah, going first. I can't think of anything that hype about it. The most hype that you can get, I suppose, would be if you're playing something like insanely off meta. So you're essentially like handicapping yourself, I guess. Yeah. So for example, if you were playing like a straight up goat deck, that would be probably as hype as it can get. So let's say you're literally playing like that goat chaos deck. You know the one, right? So assuming you're playing against Cool Tune, you actually manage to beat Cool Tune. So the only way this is hype. So if you're just playing it, it's just like, must have queued up with the wrong deck. But if you win, then simply, everyone's going to be like, you're the GOAT, right? Absolute cinema. I think, yeah. You'd have to be playing a much worse deck and still somehow win. And going first just doesn't really matter in the case of this deck because it's so damn slow. So if you're going first or second, it's still kind of terrible regardless. I mean, I think your preference might be to go second here, and then you would still need to like open fairly good. And it's more hype the more powerful the end board you break is, honestly. But the not hype part, of course, of what we'll go with board breaking and going second in general now is like, if you actually use non-engine to break, I think that's the lamest thing. So for example, you activate a droplet, you activate like Dark Ruler no more. Your opponent spends all the time making their end board and they just can't activate like a damn thing. They can't do a damn thing, and then you just OTK them like no game was played essentially. It's not so much different than literally like playing stun pretty much, Like your opponent just had the right floodgates to floodgate your deck, and they set them, kind of vibes. And also like the sequencing for all the board breakers. Like none of that matters. There's no skill in board breakers or anything you have to think about really, right? You just activate it, and maybe you'll have to consider the sequence. Like maybe I'll go Lightning Storm first, and then I'll go Dark Ruler no more. Damn. Now that's a genius at work right there. And then maybe I'll even decide to read my opponent's cards first to see if they have a Spell Trap Negate or something for my like Lightning Storm or Duster. And then I'll decide, oh, maybe I was supposed to Dark Ruler no more first, and then Lightning Storm. Wow. Truly, there's no one more skilled than you in the world. So yeah, that's about it for like going second and how, going second, nothing's really hype about doing Droplet or Forbidden Droplet or anything really like that. In terms of the most hype board breaker though, I think it's probably going to be Lava Golem. Yeah, that's about it, right? So with Lava Golem, just dropping a Lava Golem, honestly, or even like a Sphere mode, isn't that interesting. So I think I would say Sphere mode is not as high as Lava Golem, because Lava Golem is not hard once per turn. So yeah, just dropping a single Lava Golem, that's not really hype. Dropping a second Lava Golem, no, that's pretty hype. Now, you know what's even more hype than dropping a second Lava Golem? You drop the third Lava Golem. And then that's just peak, right? And does it get better than the third Lava Golem? In terms of like going second board breakers, I think not. Now, of course, the downside to this is you can't really search Lava Golem in a consistent way without ratting yourself out that you have Lava Golem, right? If I were to Small World Lava Golem, that's pretty obvious, yeah. And that becomes 10 times less hype. But it's still a little hype, where you think, okay, they're dropping a Lava Golem, that's fine, I can still manage. And then, oh no, they had a second Lava Golem. I'm completely screwed. I'm completely cooked. Now that, a little bit hype. Yeah, just a little bit though, not even that much, honestly. On like the hype scale, it's probably like 4 out of 10. But, just a normal double Lava Golem, that's either like a 6 out of 10 or 7 out of 10. Now, 3 Lava Golems, though, that's either a 8 or 9 out of 10, I'd say. Probably leaning towards 8 right now, but I don't think anything hits like a 9 or 10. At the moment, nothing comes to mind. So, yeah, that's about as hype as I can really think for going second at the moment. But the most hype thing in general is whenever your opponent makes like at least a relatively strong endboard, not necessarily unbreakable, maybe unbreakable, kinda, whatever. But yeah, I mean, the most hype thing in Yu-Gi-Oh, I suppose, is probably just breaking a board. So that board being set up is actually so boring usually, because nothing interesting is really happening. So in the case of like where you drop a hand trap, because we already know ahead of time that the board is going to be made, so you can break it, nothing super interesting. You can drop a hand trap, you can hold it for the next turn. Wow, such an amazing decision, like wow, how interesting is that? Not very hype either. Can you just like imagine like a sports announcer type deal going on for like MasterDuel, or for like someone holding Ash Blossom Joe Spring or something? Duelist A is holding Ash Blossom Joe Spring. They're holding it for likely one of Max E, because they just genuinely do not care about their opponent setting up their end board because they have 3 Lava Golems in hand. Yeah, I mean, yeah, it is a hype. Yeah, I can't really. Well, I mean, the announcer can sound as hype as they want, but I mean, like holding Ash Blossom Joy Spring isn't really that exciting, is it? Well, I guess it depends on how good like the announcer would be, but or whatever that's called. So let's see. So I guess the next thing I think would be that just that in general, like non-engine kind of category board breakers, I think, are just going to be lame for the most part. You do need like your cards to kind of suck enough where it's kind of hype that you're winning with them, but like if they're not good enough, then they just won't be able to win. So that's probably the main crux of the issue here of a deck being hype or not. Like, if a card is too good, then it's just like, oh, okay, sure. You activated the win card. It's not really surprising that you won, or that you won. It just sucks that you drew or opened that win card, whatever it might be. It's just whatever, you know. But if you did something like relatively sick, like I don't know, what would be a sick way to break a board? Because there aren't a lot of good cards for going second in general. I mean, let's see. Drop Fenrir, go battle, run over a monster, activating Fenrir effect. The search, it is negated. That triggers one of your guys, and that triggers my Fenrir. And Fenrir will get chain blocked if you activate your other card. So you're not activating this specific card right now, but I am targeting that card. But you probably don't want to activate it, so you're going to activate a different card. And then I'll actually just droplet, maybe, in this case, with Fenrir. So like a raw droplet, not interesting, but if you use droplet to dodge, that's at least a little bit interesting. How hype is that? I mean, at this point, it's like 5 out of 10 or 6 out of 10 probably. Droplet the Fenrir, dodging like the negate or whatever. Fenrir resolves, droplet is going to negate something else. And, you know, that's like a 3-for-1 special or something off of the Fenrir and droplet. Pretty hype trade there, I guess. Like, moderately. Maybe 7 out of 10. Fenrir being used like that, utilized like that. Fenrir is not like that insane of a board breaker. I mean, it's like pretty good, but it's not like what I would call well, yeah, I wouldn't call this like one of the best board breakers, I suppose. It's still good regardless. So what else do we have? Well, I think this deck would be pretty hype. Like, good, no. Hype, yes, right? Watt OTK? That could be pretty hype, moderately. You just go battle with Watts, and then just OTK your opponent, I guess. Moderately. Anything else we got here? Nah, nothing really coming to mind. But well, theoretically, the most hype I think a deck could be is you have to be breaking some sort of board that's like at least somewhat strong to some extent, you know, just the better the board, the more hype, right? But if the board is too good, then it's unbreakable, and then you just can't really do anything. But yeah, assuming there's no misplays, because misplays are lame, honestly, not hype. If someone were to just use engine, I think, because just dropping a Raigeki is kind of lame, not hype at all. If you were to use your engine to break a board with some goofy stuff like maybe chain blocking, what else do you have aside from chain blocking? Kind of like sequence abusing, you know, like if my opponent activates this effect, then I'll be able to resolve this effect on this chain because that they'll end up chain blocking my thing. But also, you know, there's a lot of lame aspects still here as well. The notable one, I think, is if your opponent specifically has like hand traps. Hand traps are like very, very lame because, you know, they can shut down like engine by themselves, and then you have an end board on top of that. So yeah, pretty lame. If the going first player is using them, if the going second player is using them, it's like 5 out of 10, pretty indifferent. Not hype, but not hype, you know? Yeah, I mean, yeah, just the peak hype you could get would be like engine breaking some board. I don't know. But because like there is not really a deck that has good board breaking ability for if it's going second. I think it's also worth mentioning if the way you're board breaking doesn't feel fair, it's not going to be hype, right? So focusing purely on the concept of hype here, you know? Uh, we need the board breaking stuff to actually be decent, but it can't, to an extent, it can't be too good. And also, like, it can't be too bad because it still needs to break the board. So, like, if I look at Draco Tail's kind of like, eh. I think the main reason that Draco Tail isn't hype, well, if you were able to break a board with Draco Tail is, well, your cards just are kind of busted, honestly. Like, Rahu Draco Tail, this can just trigger like 3 different effects and then follow up. So even if you don't like fully break the board, you still have like stuff set up. So if I activate Rahu, I'll end up setting like Ketu, Thorn, Sting Flame, whatever, right? Yeah. In terms of endboards, though, now that I think about it, in terms of endboards, like, it's not as efficient, but technically, like, the most efficient things that you can put on your endboard are kind of like in the negate category of cards, or something that does something adjacent to that, like, example, preventing your opponent from activating certain types of cards, changing card effects, so it becomes like a different effect, like the yugioh cards, for example. Those are probably your most optimal things you could put on an endboard. But the most hype thing is probably going to be, well, tied to removal. Some sort of removal effect, I suppose. Probably the most hype you can get. Not 100% sure on that. But would need to come back to that, but, I think the issue with Draco Tail is that these cards, like, do too much to the point where it's, like, not hype, but if you don't do enough, it's kind of, like, not playable. I think Draco Tail is just kind of lame to begin with how the deck works. In general, there's a lot of like lame stuff going on with Draco Tail. Feels kind of like sacky in some cases as well. The consistency issues that it has now, it's like, okay. Aside from Draco Tail, I mean, like Ryzeal, Malice, not that interesting either. With Malice in particular, you're not really doing too much board breaking. It's mostly just pushing through with your engine, and just ignoring your opponent's like end board. If that makes sense, you're just dropping bodies, and whenever they remove one, you just add 2 more. That's basically how Malice plays their boards. And then with Ryzeal, a little bit more hype than I guess Malice at least, because you're like X Ryzeal, which has like some chain blocking stuff going on. Like what? Maybe put Ryzeal at 7 out of 10, maybe like a 6 out of 10 in terms of hype. I mean, X is like actually fairly cool, but like you only have X. Aside from X, like none of your stuff is good for going second. It's just kind of terrible. With Cool Tune, I mean, you do kind of some board breaking with this, but it's kind of like Malice category of like you just drop things onto the board until you kind of break it. Kind of similar to like either, I guess, Draco Tail or what was the other archetype again? Malice, Draco Tail, and Malice. It's kind of like not really one of my favorite decks in terms of like their board breaking ability, but the main issue I think with this is that they just really haven't released a deck that's really good at specifically just board breaking, going second in a kind of cool way. Like, for Draco Tail and also, what was the other archetype called again? My brain's fried. Cool Tune and Draco Tail. Thing about those decks is, for the most part, you do have to go into your extra deck to board break. I mean, Draco Tail is going to be more efficient than Cool Tune in the sense that Cool Tune needs to actually have a monster on board, whereas with Draco Tail, you wouldn't necessarily need that. So it's actually, I think, less efficient from what I remember. And they have like better going second cards in general with Draco Tail over Cool Tune. But I think it would just be more hype if we used main deck monsters to break the board rather than the extra deck ones. But you do still need extra deck monsters for things typically, so that's a thing, I guess. Mitsurugi, I don't think is that hype. It just feels sacky when they just happen to open like Murakumo, and then you have Ritual. So it could be like Murakumo, Ritual, send guys from deck, special summon Murakumo. Murakumo drops the board wipe, and then you would chain block it with like 2 other guys because you're resolving Mitsurugi Ritual. Lame. And then we have Habakiri. I guess this would work too. You can tribute, I believe, Habakiri from hand, and then special summon Murakumo if you have Ritual, and then you chain block it like Murakumo 1, Habakiri 2. And that's also lame. So yeah, I mean, not really feeling anything even remotely hype with these cards, right? Yeah. What would be a hype way to break a board? I mean, if you break it out all at once, that I think that becomes less hype in some regards, unless you're dropping like something insane. I mean, super poly for like a 5-headed dragon, I guess is moderately hype. That could be a 7 or 8 out of 10 in some cases because it's so hyper specific. And then your opponent would need to be running the garbage that is like 5-headed dragon in their extra deck as like a super poly target. So, yeah. Pretty cool in some regards, not cool in the sense that like what was your opponent supposed to do about super poly? I mean, with 5-headed dragon specifically, I guess they could have just summoned 4 monsters, which is kind of not hype in a sense. But yeah, I mean, I think it's simple to say that the majority of things that just happen in Yu-Gi-Oh just aren't hype at all. Well, at least in my opinion. Yeah, let me know what you guys think in the comments below, I guess. So yeah, that's all I got for you guys today, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye.